Hi, today we have 5x5 for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first door in our new series, which is basically synchronized doors.
That are also small and fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically the definition of pain.
Yeah, we like torturing ourselves, so that's why we made it. And today we're gonna make a tutorial on it, so let's see it in action. As you can see, sides are synchronized and top and bottom are both synchronized on closing and opening, which is pretty sick.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess we're gonna show you how to build this now.
Yeah. So from the door frame you will need 2 blocks to the front, 1 block to the side, to the back, 1 on each side and 4 on the bottom and top. Yeah. 500 up. I'm dumb. Always mess that one part up. Yeah. I guess for a materialist, if you you need 64 blocks for the hallway and 25 for the door itself. If you don't care about them being different, you can just use whatever, but they should be solid. They need to be solid, all of them. And if you want to color code the wiring blocks, just use the same amounts that we have right here, but if you don't want to, just 51 solid blocks are fine and 5 non-solid blocks are also required.
Yeah, and for the wiring materials, so for the layout and toggles and things like that, you will need 49 sticky pistons and 16 normal pistons. Then for the more common redstone components that are used in the door, you need a stack and 30 observers, 36 redstone dust, 11 repeaters and 3 hoppers. Then for the more uncommon things, you need 2 scaffoldings, 2 activator rails. These can also be, how are they called? Power rails. But activator rails are a bit cheaper, that's why we took them. Then you need a trapdoor, preferably an iron one. Then a redstone block, a target, a dropper, 1 leaf and 1 log, and a detector rail. And for the input, you will need a constant input powering device, something. I don't know.
Yeah. So a lever, and if you wanna have a button, just use a T flip-flop. Yeah. Now for the layout, on each side just have 5 pistons. That's rather complicated. Yeah. Extremely. And on top, on the side, you can just go 5 blocks up, and then build 3 stacks of 4 pistons, so 4 quadruple extenders. And on the front of the door, just go out 2 blocks and place 3 storage pistons like this with the door blocks in right here. Now, for the inputs, especially on those sides, they will change a little bit, but for now you can just place them because it won't really matter, for now at least. Now for the storage piston, you just have 1 line with dust, and for the top, just repeaters and dust for the topmost pistons. No, here on this side, those always power 2 rows, not just 1. Like depending on the state of the extender. Yeah. Now those are, just make sure that, like, especially those right here need to be solid, because otherwise you couldn't QC the pistons when they are here. Now, on this side, before we can start with anything else, you're gonna need to connect this input to the top one by just removing this and putting an observer right here. And here, going 1 block down and 2 observers up. God. And here get just a piston with a null piston looking at a observer. And here, if you want to color code, this is already gonna be a yellow block, just like this one, and put dust on both of them. But if you don't color code, then yeah, you don't need to worry about that. Now for the input circuit, which is 1 whole block, just gonna come out to this corner and place the dropper right here, the one. And yeah, just leave it on the front. And to get the input for the top closing, just have 2 vortex repeaters and 1 redstone dust. And gonna read out from this repeater with run observer, going like this, 1 to the front and 1 going up, with the 1 light blue wool block. Now this seems like it's gonna create 2 pulses, but it's only gonna create 1 because it's connected to a permanently toggled input. That's why we need that. Then on the top of this, just place a piston with an observer. This creates the toggle for this to only activate on the closing, not the opening. And obviously this would destroy this block, so you gotta remove it and replace it with a target on top. And the target is needed because we need to redirect the dust, so it also goes into this repeater. And down here, just remove this and put a block right here. And this already is basically all of the closing done. Now this may seem where does all of that come from? But it's rather simple. Because this is like we're firing the storage, which just gets those blocks from here to here, and 2 ticks later we fire the top pistons, and around 4 ticks later we fire right here. But in this state those pistons are getting fired. Yeah. Also what you should do is place update the pistons right here and right here for later though. Now to get the input for the extra moves and quad refire, and just generally firing the quad, we need a piston on top of the dropper with an observer on top, and then build this triangle shape with the wiring block that you want to have for the refire, and just detect and put an observer that looks at the topmost rail with a yellow block on this face. This is gonna fire this. It's gonna be the first thing, and I believe actually there is something that messed up. If I'm not mistaken, those blocks should be down here. I'm gonna assume that's because of the active areas. Yeah, it should fix itself. Now, the second thing after this is we're gonna go from this one down with a node block, with observer into a node block. You can just connect this, but we don't want this pointing into this because we're gonna refire this and we're also gonna read from this node block, and we don't want that to just create a loop, so that's why we're gonna put a detector rail right here. Now to get the output here, we're gonna put an observer reading out from here, one up like that, over, like this one big circle to another block. And this would, without this rail, create a loop, which you don't want. Yeah, like, then this is the first part. The second part just over here, go up a block and down a block again into a repeater, which just goes into this block, not a block, into dust. I'm done. Yeah, and now I'm not gonna explain every part of the quadruple, the quad. I'm dumb, because I, to be completely honest, also don't understand everything. When I do quads, I just place things and they work out. Yeah, so that's why I'm not going into detail here. Now here, because we're getting 2 inputs and we only want one on one edge, we have a toggle right here going into this node block, which sends the signal top of here. And also we want to grab a transparent block, put it right here, so that this observer will also power this line. Now this, in theory, should do a boatload of the quad, but not everything, because I forgot again, in every practice and every recording so far, I forgot that we need to fire this topmost lane, which is just basically going up from this observer with 2 observers into a block with a hopper, and just 2 observers like this into the target block right here. And now I can just use an observer to refire this, and that's the whole quad done. No, for the refire, which again we have over here, we need to somehow get over there, and that we're gonna do rather easily by, first of all, we need to get output here on this side. We're gonna get from this piston right here and make sure this gets powered for a solid block. And this is an observer like this, creating a toggle. And this goes right here. And this is why we need a transparent block right here. We don't care about this piston getting powered, because when this dust is getting powered, it also powers this solid block, so this piston will get powered anyways. But we don't want the power traveling down this block. So that's why it's transparent, because they only let signals traveling up them, but not down. And this just activate also, first of all, gets storage blocks to here, but also fires the rest of the extra moves, which activate this observer detects this powering, going over with 2 observers, and putting 2 green glass right here. You can also just use any transparent block all the time. And before you place dust on top of them, remove this dust, because this will update, because we change this dust changes shape, and then you can just replace that. Now, from this dust per output, we obviously are also firing this on the closing, which we don't want to activate the extra move. So we have a toggle right here with a rather weird thing. And this is not because like it's completely necessary, but this is because for synchronizing the top and bottom, we needed an odd game tick, and this scaffolding changing shape when this one goes down is how we get the odd game tick, which yeah. Now this the chord and reefer on top is done basically. Can just test it once and make sure to just place blocks right here. But yeah, that's the top. It works like that. Also for bottom, the input, just the redstone block right here. I forgot that.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so now for the bottom layout, this is just 3 triples next to each other, placed 4 blocks beneath the door frame. And then we have, first of all, the lower storage, which is 1 block below the top pistons of the triple, and the upper storage, which is similar like the one on top. Yeah, on this position. Then just make sure to place blocks inside. And so that's the bottom layout. Now for the setup. For the storage we have 2 sliders. Make sure to place these blocks here before you place the observers. Yeah, so place 2 pistons like this, with 1 block in between them. Same on this side. But make sure to place updater pistons on this side. Now we can place the observers that are gonna power the pistons. And also make sure to place an observer looking at the bottom piston, powering the top piston. That should be our storage. So now let's go to the inputs for the triple extender. These also work using a slider, and the slider is pretty interesting because it does a lot for this door. Yeah, it makes a lot of the moves automatic, which is really convenient. So yeah, for this, yeah, place 2 pistons on either side, like so, and then for observers facing outside of the door, and 4 facing downwards on top of them. And make sure to place the door blocks, because we'll need them to make the slider function. Now if you just get a lever, and I can show you how this works. So basically, this observer right here updates by this piston pushing these observers down here to the other position. And then this observer powers this block, which QC powers this piston. And the piston updates when the piston head of this piston arrives back in the reset position. So I can show you how this looks. Yeah. And that is a really useful circuit for the door. And before I forget about it, we actually need to place these pistons back. There is one input I forgot, which is the very bottom input. It is just a redstone line, and to connect it with our slider, we want to place another block with a 2-tick repeater running into another block. That should be our triple extender done, or the inputs for it. Still need to power it. And now let's start with the connection between bottom and top, which is first of all a hopper. This is to allow the storage, allow the redstone block piston to create 3 game ticks of delay, which is odd game tick delay, which we need to synchronize top and bottom on the closing. And then just place 4 observers. That's first of all the exact timing for synchronization, and also this is pretty much the earliest we can get for retracting these blocks that get pushed down by top on the opening edge. So that is a really nice timing. And yeah, now we need to place, because we need to power this slider now, because that is the state we are in right now, and now the blocks need to be pushed up, and we power it by placing 2 observers facing up and 1 facing to the back of the door. Then this is powering a redstone dust, which is powering a block right next to it, and that is also enough delay to power the slider. And so now in this state, we just need to power the bottom storage, and after that this line. So first of all we power the bottom storage, which is gonna leave us in this state. And we did that by first of all placing an observer right here, and 2 looking upwards, like so. And these are obviously running into a block to power the slider. And now the last thing we need to do for closing to work is to power the bottom input line. And we did that by first of all placing an observer looking at the other observer that is powering the bottom storage. This is running into a 2-tick repeater to create enough delay, and then into another observer powering the input line. And that is going to do this, which should be the entire closing. So I guess we can test it now. Oh, never mind. What am I doing? Yeah, the door needs to be reset. Yeah, so that is nice and synchronized. And it actually already does a big chunk of the opening, which is really nice as well. Yeah, so the only things left to do are just powering the slider right here again at the right time to make the door sync, and then to just reset the slider and the triple extender to the correct state for the closing again. And yeah, for that we need quite a bit of delay to sync top and bottom up. And to do that, we first of all remove this block and place an observer facing upwards. Then make sure to replace the 2-tick repeater. Place 2 observers like so, looking at the bottom one, and 2 facing down with the redstone dust on top. Then we have a piston next to it with an observer looking to the outside of the door, and another piston facing downwards with an observer looking into the door in the bottom state. Now, so blue is the opening circuit, so now we place a block. This is actually kind of a triple refiring, so the first time this line powers, which is on closing, this piston just fires up, and yeah, we don't want anything to happen then. Then the second time when the line powers is on the opening, the piston fires down, and this observer powers this block, which is our output. That's when we want to kind of create a little bit more delay and then power the reset of the triple. And then the last time it powers for just resetting the triple, it just resets it to the initial state. So now we need to place a piston facing into the door with a log on this position. and leaves under it. This is gonna create one game tick, or it's gonna create odd game tick delay. This piston extending is gonna create 2 game ticks, and then this is gonna create 1. The leaves, detecting that the log is above them. Now we need 3 observers looking at the leaves under the storage, just like so, going into a block, and with a hopper right next to it. Then we need 2 observers looking down at the hopper, running into another blue block, into a repeater, which is powering this dust again. And that is gonna open up the door, and now we just need to reset it. For that, place 2 observers looking at the hopper down here, 1 to the front of the door, 1 looking down. Then replace this wall block with an observer with dust on top again, don't forget about that. Another observer in the same direction, 1 looking up. So here I would replace or break this observer and this wall block and place 1 going into the direction of the input. And then replace the 2-tick repeater, and then you can just place 2 observers, like so. That should be the entire bottom done, but the sides aren't done yet, but we can test the bottom, I guess. And yeah, this is looking good. Now for the sides, first of all, the easy side, which is just an observer looking at the piston arm down here, running into another piston, and into another observer looking at the piston arm again. Then this is gonna run into a little slab tower, which I just placed with red glass. Nice slab tower. Yeah, and then we have an observer looking down at this observer right here that is next to the repeater, powering a door block and going into another normal piston. Then another observer detecting the piston arm, and just place a few in this shape. That is actually, funnily, exactly the delay we need to synchronize the sides. And lastly, like this, we're only powering the top 2 pistons. We also need to power these 3, which we do with a block and the redstone dust on top. And for that, place an observer looking at the one that is looking down, another one like that, and into a 2-tick repeater. And lastly, an observer looking down at the 2-tick. And that should be the entire door done. So now we can just fill in the door blocks and be happy, I guess. Because the door is cool.
You're happy, we are not.
I'm happy.
Yeah. But like that was. I mean, this door wasn't that much pain, but the doors that are following this one will be way more pain.
Yeah.
Way too much pain.
This door didn't make us wanna unalive.
Yeah. The other ones, yes. Maybe the 6x6 wasn't that bad, but
Yeah. The 7% definitely.
we will see.
Yeah, there's some cool doors following in the series. Anyways, yeah, so I guess that's it for this tutorial, and yeah, see ya.
Yep.